we are so much wealthier than we ever have been. What we're able to achieve and the way that we live today is phenomenal. And so we really want for nothing. We're all rich, especially here in Australia. Some of the challenges we have, even though our money might have increased and all the rest of it, we still have financial challenges. Now that we have more of it, we just have different first world problems. Hi, welcome. My name's Christine and these are my Mindful Meanderings. Today I wanted to share an idea with you that kind of flipped things on its head for me. Over time I listened to a lot of information in the financial space. I think that understanding how money works and things like this are really, really important aspect to life, and if we're not across how money works, then I think that we are missing out, because we're in the game of life, and although we may not choose how things play out because the rules to the game were made long before we got here, I think it's important to understand the rules of the game and to learn how to play them. I was listening to a podcast. It was around what's big in the news today: cryptocurrencies, financial institutions, economics, etc. And one of the things that popped up, and frequently pops up, I might add, on these type of channels is a statement that a man named Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum made in relation to where he sees the world going. To say that we will own nothing and be happy, a lot of people get scared by this, and I can understand why. It makes you feel like everything you worked so hard for leads to naught, and not only that someone else is going to come and take it away. That's kind of the feeling that comes with that. It also alludes to this concept that someone has more control over your life than you do. Many people who I've listened to have thrown this around, and it's almost like a fear-mongering tactic. There really is a lot of negative news that sells, and I get it, I just don't agree with it. I think we need more positivity in our world, and listening to the news and that sort of rubbish just does not tick the boxes for me. I think from a mental health perspective, it's questionable, let's put it that way. To say that the wider community would be better to own nothing and be happy, I don't like that idea, and I certainly don't want to subscribe to it. But look, I've heard it so many times, and I think I've thought about it in so many different ways, and it's made me angry. Like, I've gone through the emotions and roller coasters of what I think this man or this statement alludes to. And then I had a really interesting thought. What if he is talking about the big game? What I mean by this is the way that wealthy men and women live and manage their money is different to how the way the everyday man and woman manage their money. This is why I think that learning about finances and how money works and all this is really important. We need to think about managing our money the way that these really wealthy people manage their money. I'll use an example. So if we were to think of Warren Buffett, he is one of the wealthiest men in the world, highly intelligent and really good at picking stocks. He doesn't actually own those assets in his own name. He has a business called Berkshire Hathaway, and Berkshire Hathaway makes those investments. So when we think about how the wealthy do what they do, they don't have that money sitting in a bank account doing nothing. They will make their money work for them using an entity or a corporation. This is where your small businesses, your trusts and company structures starts to become a game changer in this space. Here in Australia, one of my mentors recommends using a company's trust structure, which basically is an asset protection mechanism. What that does is it takes the asset from being yours, as in you as a man or a woman do not own that that asset in your own name, but you purchase the asset in an entity such as a trust, and you will be the director of the company, and you won't own that asset on paper because the trust will own that asset on paper, but you'll have full control over how that asset is managed, when you generate profit, how that profit is being distributed. Succession planning can be done through that trust. The likes of these wealthy men and women who are in a position where they are accumulating wealth and they're investing in whatever they choose to invest in. That might be stocks, bonds, cryptocurrency, businesses, it may be art. There's a huge array of different opportunities to invest in different things, and there are different price points and categories that one can choose to invest at. This was taught to me by one of my mentors probably a decade ago, and I love that she's so open and willing to share with people about how they can protect their assets, because I think that's really, really important. But even more so now, if people out there are pushing the agenda, maybe rather than getting scared by this idea, we think about things a bit differently, in that when we make money, I shouldn't call it money because it's not really money, when we receive compensation with fiat currency from our employment or through the work that we do, and we're compensated for our effort, energy, services, etc. That fiat currency can then be sold, and the normal way in which people buy and sell their fiat currency is by purchasing things like their utilities, their rent or mortgage, their food. Then you'll have your discretionary spending. That's how we usually sell our fiat currency. But when you get to the next level and you're saving your fiat currency to then sell and buy assets that are going to bring more value into your life, and especially if those assets are ones which are able to both grow in capital growth as well as give you a dividend or a staking reward for that new asset that you've purchased, then that's where the key to this is. We want to be buying those assets in asset protection mechanisms such as a company and trust, where we do not own the asset. Yes, we've used our fiat currency to purchase that asset, and in some cases, if we're getting a mortgage, we'll sign an agreement that says that we are liable in the event that this entity cannot pay for the mortgage. But that asset is not owned by us, but we have full control of it. Maybe rather than getting scared by this concept about where we own nothing and be happy, if our mindset were to change in that we don't personally own the asset, but we control the asset, that totally debunks the whole concept in my mind of what people are getting scared about, because you still own it. The point is that we're in an era where we are so incredibly wealthy, and yet people make decisions when it comes to their financial well-being which are harming them. We are so much wealthier than we ever have been. What we're able to achieve and the way that we live today is phenomenal. And so we really want for nothing. We're all rich, especially here in Australia. Some of the challenges we have, even though our money might have increased and all the rest of it, we still have financial challenges. Now that we have more of it, we just have different first world problems. And so I want to encourage you to save and invest and think about the long term. If you can afford to save $5 instead of going and buying that coffee, save the $5 and actually put it in a savings account, and then build it up over time, add a little bit more every week, and then get to the point where you can start investing. Over time, you'll be really surprised at how much it amasses to. And then when you're in that position where you're really ready to invest in whatever you want, and I'm happy to share different ideas around this, when you're in that position, it is so empowering. But it's at that point that we need to really start thinking seriously about asset protection, because if we want to play the game and we want to grow our wealth, then we really need to consider what the wealthy are doing. If you can set up an entity today thinking long term, like 10, 20 years, maybe even for your retirement, and you start dollar cost averaging into that entity, and then you're buying assets in that entity for your future well-being and to leave a legacy for your kids or your grandkids or your nieces and nephews, or maybe even to help family and friends. Or what I am currently focused on is making sure that myself and my husband are able to be self-insured and we're able to look after ourselves in retirement. And so that's a really big priority for us. I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not an accountant. If you want advice in this space, I definitely encourage you to go and do your research, because it's really, really important for helping you grow your wealth. Now, when it comes to setting up an entity, make sure that it makes sense to you. Don't just go and set it up because I've said that the wealthy invest using asset protection. You really, really need to understand what you're doing. And I've been learning this for many, many years. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel that I know enough, and I want to share and help people make decisions which are going to benefit their future. So I'll wrap it up there. Thank you for listening. I hope that you have found my mindful meanderings interesting and beneficial, and if you'd please like, share, subscribe, that would be fantastic. I would love to be able to help and serve other people in the community, and I'll leave it at that. Bye for now. Thanks for listening.